Alright, welcome to Dirty Truck Performance. I forgot to form an intro for this video. This is going to be a two-part video and show you how to install a Rough Country 3-inch lift kit. This is the strut kit from Rough Country. And we also install a diff drop. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview. This is going to be a how-to on this. If you have any questions, please ask them down in the comments and I'll try to reply the best that I can. But this is the final end state. We got upper control arms in the second video. We just did the lift in the first, and kind of some ways to navigate doing this in two steps. We made it work. I do recommend that you completely replace your upper control arms and your tie rod ends when you do this lift, but this is the overall look of the rig after the 3.5-inch Rough Country. The only thing we need left to do is get some bigger, or actually some newer wheels and tires on this. They're kind of bald, and then we need to complete this with a alignment. But right now everything seems to be pretty straight and forward, no issues. We've enjoyed the kit so far. So please enjoy this how-to. Thank you. Okay, so we did the other side just for practice. I learned a lot, messed some stuff up. So what you want to do is drop down your skid plate. You can do that first. It's 4 12-meter bolts, and then there's 2 bolts that hold the sway bar up here on either side. Take those off, and then you'll want to take off your sway bar, which that goes through here. And then once you get that off, just let the sway bar hang down. You want to take off your tie rod end. This, take off the clip. I always cut the clips. I have spares at home. If you don't, try to salvage it, pull it out with needle nose pliers. Take this nut off, and then very carefully dismount the tie rod. Sometimes you can take this nut, turn it upside down, and just put it on the top to protect the threads. Hit it with a hammer. Once you get that off, you want to separate the upper control arm. This is where I messed up. Don't use power tools if you can avoid it, because I stripped this bolt. There is like a 1/4 inch bolt to hold on to, so it doesn't give very much for your socket. So if you're off just a little bit, it won't come out. Make sure you take out this clip first, take that off, and then you're going to hammer this up. Sometimes you want to hit this part of it very carefully, and it loosens up the threads. And then once that separates, you're going to take off these 3 upper nuts, 14 millimeter, 1, 2. Third one's in the back. It's easy to get if you have a ratcheting wrench. And then the last one is going to be down here. This bolt for the lower shock or strut. Once you dismount that, then this whole assembly will come out. Getting that assembly out, once that's out of the way, then I'll show you how to put everything in. It just basically goes in reverse order. So here we go. All right, I'm gonna work on this upper control arm bolt first, just because of my experience with the other side. This cotter key pulled out pretty easy for me last time. Okay, see, pulls right out. I keep a box next to me and I just throw all the bolts in it. Now we're gonna loosen this. This is a 19 millimeter. So I'm gonna try doing it with a hand tool first. Okay. I'll make sure we're nice and level. Of course, everything's gonna turn, which I ran out of room because it did that. I can see it slipping already. This socket is not very tight in here. And they just give you a small amount of thread to hold on the bolt there. Oh, whoo, success, I got it. All right, that's my biggest tip on this whole job, is do this by hand, this one bolt. All right, so now it'll be smooth sailing from here. That's just the sway bar. Next, you're going to want to remove the cotter key and take off the nut on the lower tie rod end there. I'm going to go ahead and replace them in the next video, but you'll see me turn the nut over, put it on top of the tie rod end, and hit it with a hammer to get it off. Just be very careful. It's hard to salvage and reuse these tie rod ends. I recommend just replacing them when you lift your vehicle, but just take your time and be as careful as you can. Alright, next I'm going to hit that lower control arm bolt. You'll probably need a wrench on the other side. To remove the upper strut nuts, I found it easiest to use a 3/8 breaker bar to break them loose. Once you break them loose, get yourself a ratcheting wrench to take them off. There is 3. The hardest one to get's the one closest to the engine bay, but if you just take your time, they come off pretty easy once you get them broke loose. So you can actually get this out without separating the upper ball joint. We found out that already. And your biggest task is going to be fighting the sway bar the whole time. Just hold it there for a minute. Okay, so push down on this whole assembly. Put the wheel in a straight position, maybe. There it goes. Okay, so this, I believe, is this is a 1.5 level lift that was already installed on this 4Runner, and this kit's supposed to be 3 inches. So if you line them up, you gain about, say, 1 inch to 1.5 inches. But these are new struts too, so it'll probably sit a little higher as well, because these are from the factory, 80,000 miles, so that'll help keep it lifted a little higher. So that's the difference between what a level and then a 3 inch. Now if it didn't have the level on it, that would be the difference. You'd get a true 3 inches right there. Yep. So this is what factory would look like, and this is the difference between a level, is that height down there if you're looking at the bottoms. When I put it up here, I make sure the bottom is going to line up, which that way it's not, that way it's not, this way it'll line up. So just rotate it until the bottom and the top 2 bolts and the bottom bolt line up. It's not light. Just line up the 2 bolts you can see. Just barely put it up in there. And then hold it from the bottom and put these in finger tight. I got 1 in, it'll hold itself. I got 2 in. Alright, you want to back the camera up and then I'll have you try to push down on it and we'll get that in there. I ended up needing to take apart the upper control arm to get the strut fully fit with the factory control arms. So as you can see, we are loosening this up. We supported the bottom with a jack, and this is going to help us line up that lower strut bolt you'll see here. Okay. Alright, I got it in, and then you just take the bolt, go through the back side, you can push on it down a little bit. Tiny bit. Push. Push. Hold on. Went the wrong way. Down. Okay. Now pump this jack up a little bit. Okay, so all we did is, you saw we got this back together, and we'll have to tighten this up. Got the 3 nuts on the top. We got the lower strut bolt in and nut on. You don't have to torque anything down yet. You're supposed to torque it all down when it's under its own weight. So we'll put the tie rod back on. Don't put in the cotter key until you torque that to spec. Then we'll put the sway bar back on. Everything goes on in reverse order. So I'm probably going to put this back on first. I'll go around to the other side, put it back together, and then we'll do the sway bar at the very last. That way I'm not fighting it on each side. Okay, we got the other side back together. Little trick if you need it. Put a ratchet strap here and then hoop it like somewhere on the bottom, and then you can ratchet this down to bring this gap in together. That's where we struggled the most. But we got everything back together. I found a website, I'll link it down below, with all the torque specs for this and this. I just did this one, but I torqued everything down and just reassembled it. Now this kit did not come with a diff drop, so we're going to do that here in a few weeks. We'll put on a new control arm designed for a 3-inch lift. We'll do new tie rod ends. We'll do all that stuff. For now, we're just getting it back together as is. I've just got to put that back up, and then we'll work on the rear. Okay, after you jack the vehicle up, take off the rear tires, you're supposed to loosen the brake line bolt. So it's on the center of the diff. There it is. I'm just going to loosen that up. It's probably so when you drop it down you don't bend it or anything. So we'll take off this one bolt, it's right there, and then we'll take the shocks off, and I think you lower it down after that. I'll let you know. Okay, the differential center bolt that holds the ABS line was a 12 millimeter. Then you're going to need a 17 millimeter ratcheting wrench if you got it to get this off. And then the lower is a 17 millimeter. Already got that out. Now, to save a little room, I'm going to take my grinder or my cutoff wheel, and I'm going to make a little bit more room in here so that I can get to that bolt easier. I've seen most people do that, so we're going to give it a try. Okay, so as you can see, I cut it up, and then to get my grinder in there without cutting everything else, I did an angle that way. I'll clean it up and paint it after I get this out. Right now the whole shock is spinning as I loosen this, so I'll probably have to get some big pliers and hold on to the shock while I take that off. If that doesn't work, I'll just cut it off with my grinder. Alright, I did not have to cut this side. There's actually a little bit more room to get the wrench in there to get this shock off. So that shock's out. I have the body supported with jack stands in the rear, as you can see down the bottom right corner of the screen. I still have the jack holding a little bit of weight on the axle. So now is what I'm gonna do. I think I have to loosen the sway bar links next on each side. I'll double check. And then we will slowly lower down the jack, and hopefully we just get the springs out and pop the new springs in. Okay, you do have to remove the sway bar end link here, 17 millimeter. It's not fun to get out. I went ahead and got the 2x4 out of underneath the axle, and now we'll try to drop the axle down as low as we can, and hopefully the springs come out. So that's as far as the axle goes. All right, oh, I can actually push down now. All right. There we go. I would imagine we save this rubber boot. And I'll go to the other side. Okay, I got the other spring in. That's what I recommend, is put the jack under the opposite side that you're doing. Jack it up all the way down so that it brings your axle as far down as possible. Get your rubber boot It goes back in there. It'll line up in there again, and it'll kind of seat nicely in a certain spot. And then if you look where it lands, you'll see where the coil is supposed to go. The little part here lines up down there. So we're gonna give this another shot. This side's probably gonna be harder since we already have the other side in. Push down on this, try not to push on that part. All right, well, they put the strap around the top of the shock boot, and you have to put on this first. So you have to release the shock. So we're gonna try to get it up in there. And if you see this where it's a little proud right there, that's going to go down in there, and then the dome cone is going to go up. Okay, so we got both sides back together. All I have to do is put that last bolt that holds the brake line on top of the differential. Then we'll put the wheels on and we'll see how it looks. All right, ready?
Yep.
Moment of truth. Oh yeah, that's a lot taller.
Yeah, you brought the jack down and it barely lowered.
Well, me and Joe were just looking at the pictures. It was like this far. Now, maybe like that, but still, you gained 3 inches completely in the back and 2 in the front.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more clearance now.
So we'll pull it around and we can measure it, because I gotta turn it around anyways. All right, when I back up, I need you to pull this out. So you gained about 1.5 inches on this side, on the hill though. And then what was the other number?
35.
Oh, you gained a little more than 3 inches there.
This was 37 because we're kind of on a hill.
Okay, that's 39. 2 inches. It all has to settle, and the tires are kind of crap. So, and then over here it's 39, so almost 2 inches over here. 1.5 inches. Not bad though.